This is one of the most complex Chinese divine weapons of the forged sword competition, the Shaolin Temple Tiger Hook. It can be used for both attack and defense, disarming enemies with ease, and even slashing up terracotta warriors when hacked up. That's why the program team specially invited back the four most popular sword forging masters to challenge this Chinese tiger hook. Of course, before they can forge the weapon, they have to dismantle a broken car to get the materials to make their own personalized swords and submit them to the judges after 3 hours. The best material for forging knives in a car is the high carbon springs found underneath. So Welsh and Lauren got their hands on an angle grinder and went right to work on the leaf springs. Nina even pulled out a spray gun and cut a piece of frame steel and gave half of it to Yaoi, the woman next door, who then designed a Contraflex Bowie hunter's knife. This knife can cut and slash, not to mention Dinah's most confident knife type. Welsh also cut most of the steel plate springs when he got his hands on them. After all, when forging a simple, unadorned chopping knife, naturally the less material the better. Of course, Welsh had to clean up the impurities before he could officially start hammering. Lauren sliced through the steel while trying to think, and after flashing through 500 knife types, he settled on a wild machete. After all, this ruggedly handsome knife had helped him win a championship. That said, the tomahawk Lauren hammered out in the last final was arguably indestructible in a sweep of the finals. Now that he has money, Lauren still prefers to hammer iron by hand. It is said that only hand hammering can find that primitive feeling. It's this kind of wild hammering that makes Dinah look dumbfounded. And although Yaoi was a female, her strength was in no way inferior to that of a male. Especially after her power hammer probation, she decided to design a traditional camping knife to show off her strength. Speaking of which, Yaoi has been a master of hand-breaking spring steel forged knives before. Today, using steel plates and springs makes her even more powerful. What's even more surprising is that after only an hour, Yaoi's camping knife is already close to being formed. Although the sides of the blade were still a little rough, the female contestant's speed was already quite terrifying. After all, Welsh had just hammered out the steel and started forging the blade. After an hour and a half had passed, Dinah hammered out the embryos and sharpened the shape of the blade, first hitting the initials of the name of the hand with her hammer, and then joining forces with the group to pour a pot of quenching oil out. This allowed a couple of knife blanks to be quenched for a horizontal blade, while keeping the back of the knife flexible. Good lord, so elaborate. Also, Dinah was going to do multiple quenches to quench out the reverse curve of the blade. Speaking of which, when he competed before, he also managed to quench out the blade pattern. This year, he was able to quench the curve of the blade again, much to the delight of the judges. The Welsh competitor was the second to harden his blade, and despite a hilarious scene at one point, the result was very good. That's the cool oil pan. He can't have forgotten that. Lauren had already taken care of the hardening, and he was very happy with the hardness of the blade, but only with the back of the blade, which seemed to be too hard. So, he plans to soften the back of the blade with a blowtorch to increase the toughness. In the last 30 minutes, Yaoi finished quenching the embryo of the knife, and the blade was also very hard. Honestly, a few of them are a bit impressive, especially Yaoi sharpening his knife, while the other three are starting to take a break. Time was up. The first round of challenges were over, and the four masters dismantled and forged knives received their first round of review. The first one is Welsh chopping knife. The design and finish of the knife is so outstanding that Seven can hardly hold it after watching it. Next up was Yaoi's camping knife, which was also perfectly finished and Corky loved it. Dinah's anti-curve Bowie knife. Good guy. Even the name is cut. It's also too good. This finish in Seven's opinion can be installed directly into the handle. Last but not least was Lauren's wild type machete. The fully hand-hammered blade was really rugged. Looking at it, Seven was reminded of the Pilon knives back home. Since several were strong, the judges discussed it for a long time and finally decided to eliminate Lauren. Major Nielsen examined and found that only his knife's harness was not ideal. It seems that something went wrong when the blowtorch softened the blade at the end, and the remaining three masters advanced to the second round to continue forging their knives. In addition to adjusting for flaws and assembling the hilt, several of them also had to get some material from the car and meld it into the hilt. Once completed, they were handed over to the judges for high-intensity testing. The 2-hour countdown begins. Welsh had made a tire and was going to use it as the material for the handle of the knife. Not a bad idea, but the smell was a bit overwhelming. The man is going to remove the dashboard to decorate the accessory handle. Man, this is a very creative operation. After Yaoi finished tuning the handle material, he was ready to finish sharpening the blade a bit more, while cutting a piece of engine part for the handguard material. In the last hour, Dinah, drill in hand, drilled a piece of wood out for the handle material and secured it to the hilt, using the key and cigarette lighter as decorative accessories. So, he removed the dashboard to pull out the car keys right. After Yaoi drilled the holes for the root, he glued on the fittings to complete the handle assembly, then pulled out the angle grinder and did a full sanding. Welsh picked out a red resin adhesive to hold the handle in place. It's a scary looking color. Time's up, and the second challenge is over. First up is a strength test of the Nielsen Consteak. Welsh's chopping knife made a 3.5 centimeters deep cut first, and the blade was fine. Next is Yaoi's camping knife. The handle of this knife is not very strong. The depth of the mouth is 3.2 centimeters. The blade is also intact, but the handguard position is a little bit cut. Lastly, Dyna's reverse Bowie knife, with a 3.8 centimeters cut, was the deepest and had the best handle, which Nielsen was very happy with. The second round was a sharpest test of Seven's cut of a pig's leg. Welsh's knife was very helpful. Yaoi's knife also cut, and Dyna's knife was equally silky. At the end of the 2 rounds of testing, after discussion among the judges, it was decided that Kurokoshi would be eliminated. After all, her knife handle slightly hurt her hand. In the end, Dyna and Welsh advanced to the 3-round final. The two will go home and hammer the Chinese Tiger Hook to determine the 3-round champion. The Shaolin Tiger Hook was featured in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and is one of the cold weapons that the ancient Shaolin Temple was very good at using. Generally speaking, only masters who have been practicing for many years can use this weapon skillfully. After all, the tiger head hook can be used to hollow out the enemy's legs and push back, and it is also able to block various attacks from the enemy, especially when the 2 hooks are united. The distance of the attack is doubled, which is called a godly weapon. Therefore, the hooks whacked by the 2 men must have 18 to 23 centimeters of half-moon guards, and the bottom of the dagger that can be pierced and stabbed. When they returned with the hooks 5 days later, they were given to the judges for the ultimate test, and the winner would be the winner of the contest. Dyna went home to get the designs and then went straight to cutting the finished steel. After all, it was the first time he'd ever seen a weapon of this shape, so Dyna decided to start with the hook and work his way down. Not to mention the fact that Dyna's hand hammer is quite something. While Welsh went home, he went straight to grind all kinds of hard and soft steel, ready to wrap up a whole big horse steel embryo out. Considering the complexity of the hook, it is a bit troublesome to hammer, so he is going to hammer this piece of Damascus steel into a half-moon shaped handguard. Anyway, the big horse steel plus wind raid hammer accessories is not a big problem. The next day, Dyna hammered out the hooks, then fine ground the details, then hardened the hooks and straight edges separately, and he was very satisfied with the results. On the 3rd day, Welsh made the hook and adjusted the detail flaws as well, and then cut to iron barrels and a furnace to heat the hook. After all, for such a long weapon, constant temperature heating would ensure the quenching effect. Sure enough, the hook was fairly straight. On the 4th day, Dyna took the time to finish assembling the hilt, and then wrapped it in leather to enhance the comfort of the blade in his hand. The comfort level was very good, and finally he split a watermelon to test it out, and the sharpness was great from all angles. So to speak, it was time for the final day. Welsh made the final adjustments and braided the handle directly from parachute cord. I can't say the result is bad, but I can only say that the rope is so well specified that it's more than enough to cut water bottles anyway. 5 days later, the 2 of them returned to the course with their hooks. Dyna's Tiger Hook was forged from 5,160 steel, and the handguard was carefully carved. Welsh's hook is also very delicate, but the Dyna's handguard is not shown in close-up. Both hooks have their own distinctive features, so which one is more powerful? The first test is the sharpness of Seven's grass cutter. Welsh's handsome hook comes first, and Welsh's knife is quite silky smooth. The balance of the blade is very satisfactory to Seven.
Next is Dyna's hook, which is a bit heavy, and although it can cut, it can only cut a little bit. The second round was the strength test of Corky's terracotta cut.
It's a bit powerful, even bouncing Welsh's hook out of shape. Dyna's hook was a slashing blast and had no problems at all. At the end of the test, after rigorous deliberation by the judges, the winner is Dyna. Welsh's hook was sharp, but the blade was bent by the terracotta warrior, which was a big point deduction for the contest judges. Congratulations to Dyna for winning this year's competition.